Hello and welcome to another Royal Reviewer live chat. And I hope you've all had a really fabulous week. I know I have, a really voluptuous week for everyone. And let me just go to the chat. I did this time, just like last week, pre-upload the chat rooms. So I should be able to see you all straight from the start. And yes, I can. Here we are. So we have Chelsea in the house. We have Beck Terry. We have Jason Lewis Young. And you're finally able to be here tonight. I take it you're not working tonight. Chelsea's wishing there's going to be a party. Yes, I'm here. I am definitely here. I was running just a few minutes late. Usually I am very much exactly on 10 o'clock. I was 3 minutes late. I'm sure you can forgive me for that. So here I am. And as always, the format is exactly the same with these live chats. If you've got a question about the British royal family, post it in the comments section that you can see on your screen. So let's kick off with a question. Does anyone have anything to ask me? As always, I do have some notes as well, which I will refer to, but usually I don't need to go through the notes because you're all so good and you ask me all the best questions. And I hope you all have your favorite drink as well. I have my tea. Which I'll probably need throughout the evening. Now, a little confession to start with. And the confession is basically that I haven't been able to read or had a lot of time to read very much for the book club. So I'm still pretty much where I was last week, although we did decide last week that we were going to give ourselves 2 weeks to finish the book and then move on to the next book, which was Backstairs Billy. So please forgive me, I haven't read too much. I know a few of you have messaged me on Twitter and said that you've not been able to read too much too. So I think we'll park that one for this week and we'll talk about the completed book next week. Jason says, I'm looking very dapper, thank you very much. I have my bow tie. And in a little nod to St. Patrick's Day, I have some greenery. It's not actual clovers, but it does have 3 leaves, so it was the closest that I could find in my garden. And my brooch this week is actually a piece that I've recently acquired, and it has a green, I think it's amethyst type stone. I haven't quite worked out what it is yet in the middle, so as a nod to St. Patrick's Day. And I believe the actual piece is a silver Navarro or Najaro American Indian piece. So those of you who are from America, if you can tell me any more about this piece, I would love to know. It's got a bear claw design. Will Dawson says, the Royal Reviewer is never late, everyone else is simply early. That is true. I am allowed to be fashionably late. The Sarah says, hi, I'm in London visiting from Houston. Well, hello to London and hello to anyone all over the world, including Houston. Beck says, I found the book interesting, especially from an Aussie perspective, reading about someone who has had a different viewpoint on a life from us average Joes. Yes, Margaret's take is, well, it's a very, it's one of the most reliable accounts that you'll ever find, because it's actually from someone who knows her personally, where she doesn't have her guard up. So of course, any account, any personal account, is such a reliable source, and that is one that will be based when, in hundreds of years' time, when people do, write-ups of the Queen, that will be source material. So I'm really glad that we get a chance to read it now. Jamie says, I'm done with the book. So well done, Jamie. You can tell us what you think about it next week. Freya says, just poured myself a glass of Jameson, so I'll have my favourite drink. Well, enjoy your Jamesons. Noreen says, what are you reading? Well, for our book club, Noreen, we are reading The Final Curtsey by Margaret Rhodes, who is the Queen's cousin. And you can find it on Amazon. We will be finishing this next week, moving on to our next read, which will be Backstairs Billy, which you can also find on Amazon or e-readers or any good bookshops. Freya says, where do Lady Louise and James Viscount Severn go to school? I haven't been able to find out. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you. But I do know that they have their main home in Windsor. So I presume, oh no, actually their main home is Bagshot, actually. They do stay a lot in Windsor because they stay a lot with the Queen at weekends. But their main home is Bagshot. So I imagine the schools will be quite close to Bagshot Park. Bex says, Navajo, that's it, Navajo. I did do a quick bit of research. It's a Navajo piece of jewellery. And she says, tweet a pic. Now, I've left my phone in the other room, so I can't get up to tweet, but I will tweet it after the chat. And hopefully anyone or yourself can tell me some more about the stone. Will says, what is Pippa's wedding date? It's not been announced. And where is Pippa's wedding? It's her local church. And I did do a video where I think I did say the name of the church. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But it's her local family church. So that's one close by to Bucklebury. In the UK, of course. And yes, it will be a huge event. So even though she's not royal, she is close enough. And there was a bit of talk about whether Catherine would be the maid of honour. And I think that she will, because it's not going to be a televised wedding. Of course, there'll be press and paparazzi outside the venue. So they'll take pictures of people coming and going. But they won't have access inside, so it doesn't make any difference if Catherine is maid of honour inside the church, because it's not, those photos won't get released unless the bride and groom choose to do so. So it makes no odds. And of course, George is down to be a page boy, and Princess Catherine is down to be a flower girl or a bridesmaid. Of course, those details are not released just yet. But I will do lots of videos and be fascinated at the time when it happens. Norman says, oh, Margaret Rose recently passed away. Yes, very sadly, which is one of the things that prompted me to buy the book. Chelsea says, did you see the video I posted to your Facebook, the one about the thing the Queen has? I saw the link. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but it's saved in my to-watch list. So thank you, Chelsea. Of course, I do like any of your suggestions that you want to suggest to me. Some of them do give me ideas for new videos, so I find them very useful. Can someone tell me today, please, if my face goes really white? I have a really bright light in front of me, and sometimes it does make my face go white. So if I do turn into a ghostly version of me, please let me know, and then I can readjust the lighting. And Will says, Prince Edward's kids go to St George's. Well, there you have it. Jamie says, I find it sad that the book ends kind of suddenly and has 3 empty pages at the back, like she had more to do. That could, well, I've got my copy here. That could just be a printing thing where, you know, that's the amount of paper they had left to make the book work. It could be intentional, or it could have been, like you suggested, that there was, you know, possibly something else planned that didn't quite make the book. But I don't think that matters. And of course, I haven't got to the ending yet. So, and of course, well, we do know the ending. Obviously, her life ends last year, but she had a good life. And of course, being close to the royal family and the monarchy, she experienced lots in life that us commoners will never know. Noreen says, I'm currently reading The Daughter of Empire, a memoir by Pamela Hicks. I think Lady Pamela Hicks, I think she's a lady in waiting to the Queen. So if you write to the Queen, you may get a response signed by Pamela Hicks. And yes, she is Lord Mountbatten's daughter. So that would place her in a very good position to be a lady in waiting. Freya says, do we know who's designing Pippa's wedding dress? Again, that information has not been released, but you can probably guarantee one thing, and that it will be British. It will be a British designer. Although maybe not McQueen, you know, just to make a little bit of difference between Pippa's and Catherine's wedding dress. Steve says, I've heard that Pippa has said that she does not want Harry to bring Meghan to her wedding. I think that's just hearsay. That's another one of those, dare I use the phrase, fake news? I think it's probably one of those fake news stories. And of course, if she had that opinion, I very much doubt she would say it to anyone so that it could get leaked. Jamie says, Elliot, you never seem to have time to do things. You must be very busy. I do. I am very busy. My job keeps me very busy. And then making the videos keeps me very busy. Of course, I really enjoy doing it, but nevertheless, it keeps me very busy. And then, you know, you have to have time for your own personal life, which is very busy. So I don't have a lot of time. I would love more time. Time is precious. Noreen says, Will Dawson is right. Lady Louise attends St George's School in Windsor. So you see, that was my first thought, that it was Windsor. There you go. I should always trust my instincts. Perhaps somewhere I've heard it somewhere. Sometimes recalling information can be harder than it looks. Fuzzy Puppet says, it was nice to see Harry make so many successful appearances recently. I agree. Everyone seems to love him. He has such a fantastic personality. Yes, that was one of the things on my list, was all his different engagements. And one of them recently this week was his Queen's Canopy charity that he supports, well, organisation that he supports, which of course is aiming to plant trees across the breadth of the Commonwealth in the name of Queen Elizabeth II. Hopefully with the aim of improving the environment and getting more trees back into the circulation to help improve the air and get our resources back up. So a very worthy cause, and I was really happy and delighted to see him taking part in some tree planting. And he looked incredibly dashing, very handsome. I think his relationship with Meghan Markle is doing him some kind of good. Catherine says, I found Margaret Rhodes' travels fascinating. She goes into such detail. She was an amazing woman with lots of anecdotes and stories to tell. So I'm really pleased that we're getting a chance to read it, and that actually she got her memoirs published in the first place. Beck says, I thought you couldn't be a maid of honour if you were married. We do matron of honour. I've heard it muted that she would be maid of honour. However, you could be right. It could be classed as matron too. Freya says, I hope Vivienne Westwood designs her wedding dress. She's a bit of an edgy designer and would fit Pippa's personality well. I agree. That is another really good option. So let's, fingers crossed, that it's a Westwood creation. And Jamie says, speaking of writing, what do you think of my letter? Yes, Jamie wrote to the Queen. He followed my advice. And when I said write to the Queen, just do it. You'll probably get a response. Jamie did it, and he got a response. And I was really pleased, and pleased for Jamie that he got a reply. And such a lovely reply too. And they also enclosed some information, which again is really good. So perhaps Jamie could tell us about the information that was enclosed. Caroline says, yes, you can here in America be married and a maid of honour. That's what I heard it was muted as. It was muted definitely as Catherine being maid of honour. Jamie says, Bagshot is 10 minutes from Windsor. There you go. That's why I was getting my wires crossed. Bagshot is in Windsor, hence why they go to school in Windsor. Steve says, William has had some negative publicity this week. That was another thing on my list that I wanted to talk about. Now, I was in a little bit of a quandary this week about whether or not to report on the story. Of course, it had a bit of a negative twist to the story, a bit of a negative connotation. And I found myself in a predicament because, of course, as you know, I love the monarchy. I will always support the monarchy. But sometimes negative stories do occur that are true, that are based on truth. So I decided in the end to publish the story, but obviously not take any, put any personal viewpoint out there, to just report on the facts as you would expect from me. And of course, I reported it was true. He did go on a skiing holiday with his friends at the time of the Commonwealth Day service. He was photographed doing dad dancing, and he was photographed with other women. And of course, as we know, a still photograph or even a moving video doesn't always tell the full story, but it was true, and therefore I had to report it. I will only ever report things that are true, and hopefully you've all made up your own minds about it. My own personal opinion on it is that it was very ill-timed and ill-advised that he went on that trip. You know, he's a young man. I do not begrudge him one bit having fun, letting off steam. That's fine. That's absolutely, it's normal. That's normal life. But to do it at the time of the Commonwealth Day service, when you're going to be the head of the Commonwealth one day, hopefully, if they agree to it, of course, because it's not automatic. It's not automatic that Charles will be head of the Commonwealth, although there's clear indications that he will be. So I just think it was ill-timed, and especially when all the rest of the family were there too. It just didn't look very good. Just going back to some comments before they disappear from my screen. Will says, the Middletons don't have a tiara, so do you think they may buy one since Pippa will need one? They could borrow one. I doubt it will be a royal one. They may even have one made. They may even create their own Middleton family tiara. They are wealthy enough to do so. So let's just watch this space. She may not even have a tiara. She may have flowers. She may go floral. Noreen says, what do I think about the Duke of Cambridge's dad dancing? It was just normal dancing. I mean, you know, lots of men that are of father age do dad dancing. That's just part of it. Freya says, poor Will, you can tell he tries, but it's just not very socially attuned. No, I think growing up, even though, you know, he had a degree of normality and he was introduced to normal life, when you're royal, you can't ever be completely normal. Noreen says, I think the Middletons should have a family tiara made with the acorns from their family crest. That would be a good idea. Jamie says, the letter I got was from Charles. I was confused as it's first class mail. I thought they were second class, but it came directly from Clarence House. Well, wow. All of mine came from Buckingham Palace and were sent as second. And of course, Noreen, in diamonds. What else? Chelsea says, I'm going to eat with my family. I will watch it later. Of course, if any of you want to disappear, you can always find this video on catch up after the event. So once this chat is finished, it goes straight up automatically onto YouTube. Fuzzy Puppet says, I wonder if William was reacting to his upcoming trip to Paris. He may have wanted to play. It may even have been one of his friends who wanted to go at that particular time and invited him. So I don't begrudge him going. It was just whoever advised him that it would be a good idea. It wasn't. Clearly, it wasn't. Will says, if things ever got bad between William and Kate, do you think they would divorce, or is that option off the table? I don't think things would ever get that bad. They seem a very solid couple, and their relationship is built on very solid foundations. I think I did feel sorry for Catherine. I feel like she was a little bit of a victim in that debacle, because she was the one left at home with the kids while her husband was out partying, filmed partying, and then filmed having lunch with two very attractive young women. So I do think there was a little bit of loss of face for Catherine over that incident, but I think their recent trip to Paris has debunked any of that, and they look the most amazing, stylish, happy couple. So I think any animosity she had for his trip, his recent ski trip, has gone by the time of the Paris trip. Okay, Jamie says maybe it's taking time for your set of china to come in the post. And Elaine says, I thought dress the Duchess was the dress the Duchess was wearing was either blue or grey was stunning. Is that the Chanel one? I think it was Chanel. The one she was wearing today was Chanel. Jamie says, I sent one to the Queen at the same time too. I sent a letter and a drawing. Maybe Buckingham Palace just takes longer. It may do. I think it took me 2 or 3 months to get a reply. Jamie says, if you read the letter, it says, His Royal Highness quite happy to hear your recollections of seeing him. Yes, I did read it. So do they actually tell him? Or I don't know. As I said, all I know is with the Queen, certain, possibly, 5 or 7 letters a day are picked for her to open, and she actually opens them herself, so she doesn't get to really see what's in them. So some people's will just be very, very lucky, and they will, those letters will actually go to the Queen. However, you have to be very lucky for that to happen. And I imagine if there was a really amazing piece of mail that the ladies in waiting thought that she would like to see, that they would possibly give it to her to see. But do I think that Charles actually saw it? I don't know. That's impossible to say. Noreen says, Highgrove Gardens is open again next month. Anyone else going? That's another of my, wish list to-dos. I would love to see Highgrove Garden. And there was once a story of Charles and Camilla being in residence, and sometimes they leave their window open, and of course the visitors can actually wander right up to the house when they're in the gardens. And their one garden, which has the Highgrove Rose in it, they left the window open and they sat on the floor below the window on the inside listening to the comments of the people walking by. And I just thought that was a really incredible story. So you never know if you go if they're watching or listening. Elaine says, Catherine and William are for life. They married for love, and William did give her the chance to opt out when they broke up before they were married. That is very true. And no, I don't think their marriage will be on the cards, on the rocks, just for one little partying blip. Beck says, best comment ever. You can never be completely normal. You can't. You can never be completely normal if you're royal. You're brought up in a completely different way of life that no one else is used to. And of course, all your friends are, either aristocratic or high society, Etonian, public school. They will never be normal, even if, their mother, the late Diana, Princess of Wales, she introduced them to many things that lots of royals in the past didn't get to experience or see. But even so, they will never be normal. And that's probably one of the things that we like about them. We don't want them to be completely normal. Elaine says, I didn't know about the gardens. Definitely off to Highgrove at some point this year. It would be lovely to go and see it throughout the different seasons. Will says, I heard rumours that Princess Anne's marriage has been rocky for some time. Are they just rumours? Well, seeing as there's been no sign of a separation, they still live together, there's no announcement of splitting up, there's no trial separations, we can't tell, unless it comes from the horse's mouth, so to speak. We will never know until it happens. Until then, it is just speculation and rumour. Jason says, I keep hoping any day now. I'll keep you posted. Yes, please tweet us. if you receive your mail, send a tweet and I can retweet it. Jamie says, Will, you just called it a rumour, then asked if it was a rumour, question mark. I suppose with a lot of things with the royal family, you just don't know until it's actually been announced. You know, a lot of things are speculation or, you know, opinion. Pussy Public says, I read this past week when the Queen dies, the code phrase London Bridge will be used to communicate her death. Yes, it is true. I did do a video on it. If you look in the Queen playlist on my YouTube and go back quite a bit now, you will see a video on that. So yes, that is the code phrase for when the Queen dies. Jamie says, the post in Ireland is closed on Friday for St Patrick's Day. My school is off Monday and I'm hoping for a letter from Her Majesty, but my book will definitely come. Well, happy St Patrick's Day to everybody. Did you see the video this week of Catherine at the St Patrick's Day parade? Wasn't the dog huge? That is one of the biggest dogs I think I've ever seen. And of course, he is there every year, and his predecessors have always been the same type of dog. And I included a few pictures of the Queen Mother and the Queen in the past going to the same event. This time, William and Catherine were both there together. In previous years, Catherine has done it by herself. So it was really lovely to see them both together. And of course, they did that engagement before the Paris trip. So they did that engagement in the morning and then were straight on a private plane off to Paris. And Jamie's saying quite rightly, Hyde Park Corner was the death code for George VI. And that was also featured in The Crown. Jamie says it was an Irish wolfhound. Yes, funny you say that, because I'm currently minding my uncle's one. His name is Monty. Well, say hello to Monty for me. They are really gorgeous dogs. I'm not necessarily a dog person, but I thought the Irish Wolfhound was amazing, and probably if I was going to have a dog, I'd probably want one quite similar to that. Steve says it was nice to see the past photos of the Queen Mother and the Queen. I thought it was a nice touch just to look back at the past and see a little bit of royal history. Noreen says, Anne was seen at Cheltenham with a former boyfriend. Yes, she was. And Camilla's ex, Andrew Parker Bowles. He married his mistress, Rosemary. So there's a vacancy. I think they're all just still friendly and chummy and pally. I don't think there's any animosity between them. And of course, you know, he must be still a really good guy to be a friend with. So, you know, again, it's horses for courses. People choose their different ways of life, and if he's still welcome in the fold, then that's great. Happy days. Elaine says, I thought that and the photo with the Queen, Mum, wow, all those dogs must be huge. What is the breed? Well, Jamie said it's an Irish Wolfhound, and it's an amazing dog. Catherine says, is it true the Queen is no longer breeding corgis? Yes, that is true. I did a video on that in the past, but she has apparently taken on some other dogs, some corgis which were bred from her corgis because their owner died. So I think she was down to 2, but now she's back up again. I think she's gained another couple. Jamie says, did you know that wolfhounds' main purpose was to hunt wolves? Hence the name, I imagine. They were so successful in their job throughout history, wolves are now extinct in Ireland. Perhaps that's a good thing, but maybe we don't want wolves all over the place. So thank you to the wolfhound. Freya says, you can have them as a pet. My family had an Irish wolfhound when I was a child. And Elaine says she's thinking about more of a teacup breed, which are extremely small. Yes, I like the teacup varieties too. They're really cute. Well, I would like a little mini pony. That would be even better. Will says, I would love Anne and Andrew Parker Bowles to finally get together. Well, Anne has got her husband, Sir Timothy Lawrence, so unless they separate, I don't think that will happen. And Jamie says they are the most affectionate dogs. I'm sure they are. But I'm not sure I would want one lying on the bed. They're huge. Now, one other thing I did want to speak about this week was the royal publicity machine. And this week, there was a display of the royal publicity machine in action. And it was blaringly obvious to me. Now, one of the ways I get my news is to follow certain people on Twitter. And the actual official Clarence House page always updates the events of the day. So if Charles or Camilla is on an engagement, they will post a few pictures and a few snippets of information about it. But then on the Sunday, Camilla Tominey of I can't remember which newspaper she's from, but Camilla Tominey had an exclusive where Prince Charles was seen hugging mothers who have lost relatives. They've gone missing and could be presumed dead, but they're missing. And of course, this is very rare. Prince Charles doesn't really go up to people and hug them. But I think that was seen by the palace or Clarence House as too good an opportunity to pass up. Of course, not everyone knows about the Clarence House Twitter, so they wanted people to know about it. So instead of putting it up on the Twitter, they held it back. They gave the exclusive to Camilla Tominey, who then had it published in one of the Sunday newspapers for everyone to see. And then immediately after, Clarence House put the pictures up onto their Twitter, which tells me that they held back because they wanted that story to go public with the newspapers. So I just thought that was really interesting to see a little bit of royal spin in action. So, don't ever think that the spin doctors, that the publicity people behind the palace have gone away. They're not. They're, if something is too big a scoop to pass up, they will pass it onto the papers and they will give them an exclusive. I only wish they'd given me the exclusive. I would have loved it. But I just thought that was really interesting to note, and it was blindingly obvious to me what had happened. Jamie says, after this stream, I'm actually going to my uncle's next door to say goodnight. And Elaine says, that was the first time I've seen Charles affectionate in public. Yes, which is why it was they couldn't pass up that opportunity not to take it to the papers so that the masses could see it. One of the accusations he does suffer from is that he's, not warm in public. And of course, that showed him being extremely warm and, showed his personality. Now, I'm not saying in any way, shape or form he did that for the cameras, but since it happened, and I think it was natural, I think it did naturally happen, the palace press office could not pass up that opportunity. Jamie says, congrats on the 6,000 subscribers. Yay, we've actually got up to 6,000 subscribers. I was so happy. The last sort of, from 5,000 to 6,000 was quite slow, but I'm hoping it will pick up a little pace and we will get some more subscribers. I really am aiming for 10,000 by the end of the summer. So by September, I would love to have 10,000. Noreen says it's testing the waters, possibly, maybe, who knows. Elaine says, you look extremely smart this evening and quite flattered. You care enough to do this for us. Well, of course, I see this and the live chat as part of the whole channel. It's a way of connecting myself and the videos and the royal family to the people that that are interested, that want to watch it. And of course, you know, speaking to the people directly who watch my videos is a really nice thing for me. I really enjoy it, and sometimes I get ideas for videos, even if they might only make it onto my big list, my growing list that I've got to do. But I really love talking to everyone and hearing everyone chat, and this feeling like a community rather than just me on my own. I actually feel like there's other people involved, which is really, you know, one of the most empowering things about this channel, is that it brings people together. And I see the live chats as one of the ways of allowing that to happen. Jamie says, can you buy the book if I get in the letter online? Which book was it? I think I've missed a bit of chat. Which book were you talking about? Noreen says, have you thought about working for the royal household? I would love to, but I'm a little bit too far away from London to work in a royal household. Jamie says, you'll seriously have to think of a 10,000 subscriber special soon. That was a tongue twister. Yes, I would love to do something special for 10,000 subs. Jamie says, I thought of an idea for the stream to play God Save the Queen at the start and end of the stream. Well, to be honest, you were on the same wavelength as me. I was going to sing it, believe it or not, but you might not remember, but for those of you old enough to remember that are from the United Kingdom, you will know that Cilla Black, a famous TV celebrity, singer and TV celebrity, used to sing the outro to one of her shows, Surprise, Surprise. And I would love to do a little something similar for my intro and outro. But I need to sort of, you know, think of a tune or get some music going. Failing that, I could play God Save the Queen, but I don't know how to get that straight on the live chat, or whether I'd have to put it in some kind of edit afterwards. Caroline says, I remember your very first live chat. Wow, so you've been there all that time. Yes, probably that was very primitive compared to now. Steve says, are you going to do anything in August to mark the 20th anniversary? Well, as you all know, August is my birthday month, August the 4th, same as the Queen Mother, and interestingly enough, the same as Meghan Markle. So I am planning, hopefully it will get off the ground, a trip to London for my birthday. So hopefully 4 days in London. Hopefully I'll be able to see the Kensington Palace Diana exhibition, hopefully do some filming. I'd love to go into the palace. Westminster Abbey is on one of my lists of things to do. I did Tower of London last time, so I probably won't go there again. But hopefully I'll be able to do a little bit of filming in London and do some on-location vlogs. And those of you who know, I have a Princess Diana clematis as well. So I'll be updating you all on how that is progressing during the summer. And hopefully we'll have some amazing flowers from it. Oh yes, the book leaflet you got in the letter. You could take pictures of it and send it on Twitter. Maybe, but I'm not sure if you can get it off, if you can buy it anywhere. I don't know. It's probably something they have produced for the palace. Elaine says, apparently YouTubers are inviting YouTubers in how to live stream on their channel. So they obviously think it's the next trend, but I'm doing it already. Yes, I mean, to be honest, I just saw it as an option on the side of my list when I was looking at my channel. And I just decided it would be a good idea to do it. So here I am, and you know, we've done many live chats now. And I really enjoy doing them, and of course getting into them. Jamie is going to London in September. Yes, I remember you telling me, for your birthday for 3 nights. And you will see the exhibition then, and you can't wait. It will be amazing. And of course, I've seen pictures of it, but I want to see it in person. Lane says, I hope you do some filming. That would be interesting. Yes, it would. And of course, I will film what I can. I'm not sure how much you are allowed to film inside the palaces. So, you know, it may have to be a combination of what I'm able to film and then maybe some sneaky pictures that I'm able to take. So we'll see. We'll see what I'm able to film. Will says, I want Andrew and Sarah to get remarried. And that would be, I think everyone would really love them to. And I think it would probably solve a few problems, perhaps for Sarah, if they did, because then she wouldn't have to be trying to make money everywhere. You know, she could go back into royal duties and just take on royal life. Yes, it would be more restrictive again, but she wouldn't have the royal, you know, the problem with being connected to royalty, but then being slightly out of it and then being criticized for making money. You know, being outside the royal family, she's damned if she does and damned if she doesn't. So it would probably be better for her if she just was part of the family and then could, you know, work for the royal family, support the Queen, and live that way, and there wouldn't be an issue. Steve says, when did you do your first live chat? The first one I saw was just before Halloween. It wasn't long before Halloween. It was fairly close. I think there was a couple slightly before the Halloween one. But yes, that was probably the first. The Queen was seen wearing the Australian wattle brooch this week, which I would have loved to have had. That was the next one that I want. So if I'd have had the wattle, I would have worn the wattle this week. Noreen says, do you make any money being a YouTuber? Yes. Basically, you have to get 1,000 subscribers to be able to monetize your videos. And you have to go through a whole process before YouTube will allow you to monetize the videos. But basically, once you monetize a video, YouTube selects from your keywords that you put in an appropriate advertisement of an appropriate length for your videos. So for each video that has an advert on that's watched, it goes towards making an amount of money that's paid. But it's not the same each month. It does fluctuate. It depends also which countries are watching your video, and that changes too. So, you know, let's just say, for example, I got most of my viewers from Australia. For 1 month, that might pay, you know, a different amount to the other month. So it really fluctuates. Then there's peaks and troughs in how many people view the videos anyway. Over Christmas, there was a bit of a boom. Obviously, people off work, so they've got more time to watch videos. In the summer, there was a bit of a downward spike, probably because people are off on their summer holidays. In July, in the end of June and July, that was another spike. And of course, I haven't been fully monetized a year yet. I think I started monetizing round about June, July last year. So I haven't experienced a full year of it. I mean, it's you know, in terms of how much money, it's not a great deal of money. It's enough to perhaps pay for a few expenses and perhaps to compensate for the time that you spend doing it. But of course, I love making the video, so I'm not doing it to, you know, for compensation for the videos. But it's enough to probably compensate you for the time and be able to buy a few things to show for the channel. I mean, obviously, as I said before, anything that I do make from the channel goes back into the channel to hopefully improve the quality of the videos and the content for everyone. So you do get some money, but it's not a great lot. And as I said, it does fluctuate, so you don't have a great deal of certainty with how much it's going to be each month. So hopefully that explains a little bit about how YouTube operates and how it does, I suppose, you know, fund YouTube creators of the content, because without the creators, YouTube wouldn't have the content, and therefore it wouldn't have the viewers that keep coming back. So they all go hand in hand. It's a bit like the circle of life. So hopefully that explains a little bit about that. Pebbles says, what is a good source for royal history? The internet is a really good source. It's a really good modern source. Books as well. Any biographies that people have written. Basically, anything you can read is really helpful. And of course, on the internet, there's Wikipedia. You can always go on Wikipedia for information. There's lots of royal forums that you can go to. So there's plenty of information out there for royal history. If you haven't got the books, as I said, there's lots accessible on the internet, online. Freya says, by the way, I live in London. I hope to see you when you visit. Which piece of London? And you say you go to Kensington as often as you can. The last time I went to London, I stayed in Kensington. I stayed pretty much close to Kensington Palace. I stayed at Kensington Palace Gardens. Beck says, you guys should have a London live chat and meet up at a cafe. I did see on Kensington High Street a really lovely cafe, and I didn't get a chance to go in it, but it was very oldie worldy and old fashioned. It looked very twee, and I would have loved to have had an English afternoon tea at the cafe. That would be a good idea. Noreen says, I want to marry Will Dawson. There you go. And Will Dawson wants to marry you too. And another Pebble says, would Sarah be fully accepted? I believe she would if that's what Andrew wanted. Will says, anyway, I have to go. Goodbye. So goodbye to Will, and thank you for coming to the chat. Fuzzy Puppet says, if Harry and Meghan have to get married at Windsor Guildhall, they probably won't get to do the Buckingham Palace balcony moment. I will be so disappointed. I imagine they probably would do the Buckingham Palace balcony moment because they will probably have their wedding somewhere in London, I think. Now, of course, there's some debate over whether they would be allowed to marry in a church because Meghan, of course, is a divorcee. Now, the reason why Charles had to is because he is definitely going to be king. He had to have a civil ceremony because he's going to be the head of the Church of England. Harry isn't. Although Harry's in line to the throne, in all likelihood, he probably won't be king. You know, there's Charles, there's William, and then there's George. So, you know, unless some sort of tragedy happens, Harry won't be king. Therefore, he may be able to get a dispensation to marry in a church. We will have to wait and see what happens. If he can get married in a church, I presume it probably will be London. If not, it may be like his father in Windsor. Of course, we wouldn't have the balcony moment, but we would have them coming down the steps, pretty much as Charles and Camilla did, and we will probably see a kiss moment at that point. Noreen says, yay, royal reviewer matchmaking. If I can bring people together, then that's only a bonus. Freya says, I always start on Wikipedia for an overview of history, then I use the sources they supply to go further. That's a really good way of doing it. Noreen says, thank you, great explanation of YouTubing. Yeah, it's, to be honest, before I started doing it, I knew nothing about YouTubing. I didn't even know that you could monetize your videos. So yeah, it was a revelation. Caroline says, Elliot, does anyone ever comment about your channel at your workplace? People at my work do know about it. And you know, some of them aren't into the royal family, so they can't understand why I do it. Some think it's good, and they say good on you for doing it, and you know, carry on. My family know about it, but I don't actually think my family watch it. My parents know about it. But yeah, you just get some positive comments, and some people just say that they're not interested. Not that I try and get them to watch it. But yeah, on the whole, it's fairly supportive. Fuzzy Puppet says, I've enjoyed watching David Starkey's Monarchy. I saw that ages ago, but yes, it is really good. And you also enjoyed Fiona Bruce's documentaries. Yes, again, they're all really good material for learning. Beck says, I finished watching Victoria and that was awesome. Yes, it was. I really can't wait for the next series. So bring on, I think it's in the autumn in the UK, so probably September, October time. And Caroline says, just heard on the news Chuck Berry died. Oh no, that must be breaking news because I haven't heard it. How sad. Noreen says, Sarah Bradford is a very good historian who writes about the British royal family. Yes, and also Alison Weir is a good one. I've read lots of Alison Weir books too. Now, one thing I did have on my list to discuss was I did see a comment this week on one of my videos. And of course, I do read all the comments, even if I don't get a chance to reply to each individual one, although I do try. You know, usually I do give them a thumbs up even if I can't reply. But one of the comments did say that this week, you know, I haven't done a lot of narration videos and I've just done picture videos set to music. And one person criticized the music. They said it was too loud, it was too drummy, and that, you know, they couldn't endure any more of my videos. Well, it's, as I said, you know, I do have a full-time job. It's been an incredibly busy week for me, and there was so much royal stuff out there to report on. You know, you had the Paris tour with William and Catherine, lots going on with Harry. There was so much material to do, and actually the picture videos, although they aren't my favorite to put out there, they are quicker for me to do, so they're a little bit more, you know, time saving when I'm busy. So of course that's what I've had to put out this week. Sometimes, however, I do a picture video set to the music simply because I've either got way too many photos to possibly even talk about, or very few photos, in which case there isn't a lot of information to put out there. So that's probably some of the main reasons why I might choose to do those videos. But I do prefer the narration videos. I'm not going to stop doing the narration videos, but I have to have the time to do them. So next week is looking a little bit easier on my own schedule. So hopefully back to the narration videos for next week. So just in case you thought that I changed the format, I haven't. It was just because it was a busy week. Okay, and one of the other videos I made this week was the Queen launching the Commonwealth Games. So of course, the Commonwealth Games this week was going to be in Australia, and she was seen wearing the Australian wattle brooch. So if I'd have had it, I could have worn it today. So I really wished I'd just gone and bought it. Noreen says, I thought the music you used this week was great. Haters gonna hate. Well, I absolutely agree. And of course, you know, I left the comments on the videos there. You know, I don't remove comments. I'm big enough and old enough to be able to take comments aimed at me. That's fine. That's someone's opinion. I believe in freedom of speech. But similarly, someone else on another video said, I need to change my music. I need to, they're getting a bit bored of the same sort of tune that I use. And I do like that tune that I use. So this week, I did invest in some further royalty-free tunes, but then I got the comment that they hated the music. So it's almost another case of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know, I listened to someone's comment, I changed up the music, I got new music, and then someone else doesn't like it. Sometimes you just can't win. Caroline says, so sweet of you to even comment on that, Elliot. Very classy. Thank you very much. Of course, like I said, I do read all the comments, even if I don't have time to reply to them individually. But yes, I mean, obviously, you know, some of the comments really help me to improve the channel. But sometimes, you know, people don't understand the full reasons about why you do things and how you do things. So I just thought I'd clear that up. That I haven't finished with the narration videos. They will continue. Steve says, I always enjoy all of your videos, although nice to hear narration. only comment about photo ones is sometimes comments go too quickly. Positive criticism though, your work is great. Well, that's another criticism that I know about. I already know that myself, and the reason is because the app that I use to make the videos only allows me to put one song in. So once that song is finished, I run out of music. So my songs are pretty much 3.5 minutes, and I have one that's 4 minutes. So I have to try and make the amount of pictures fit the song, or else I run out of song. And there was some videos this week where I allowed it to run out of song, and the end of the video is silent. I don't think it was too noticeable, but that's the way it is. If I was allowed to put in an extra song, to put, to sort of cue songs up or put a song on repeat, that would be a really good feature. So I might suggest that to the app creator if I can contact them. Then I can take my time and allow people to read as much as they want. But until then, I would say just pause the video so that you can read it comfortably. But I do always try to leave it up there as long as I can before I have to move on. So there was a reason for that. So I am aware of it. Stuart says, hello Elliot, sorry I missed the beginning. Don't worry, we certainly haven't finished yet. We've probably got another 20 minutes at least left, and of course you can always watch on catch up. Steve says you do really well with the technology that you have. I recently invested in a new phone because basically the app I was using was no longer compatible to the software on my old phone. So last week I had the issue of it took me 60 attempts to upload one video, and it almost took 2 hours to upload something. So I have a new phone which allows me to, well, it's brilliant. It's like a revelation. Things upload really quickly. So it's certainly saving me a lot of time in doing that. I would love to be able to have a proper fixed computer. At the moment I only have a laptop, so I'd like a more powerful fixed computer so I can buy some proper video editing software. Then hopefully I'll be able to do everything with the videos that I want to do. But of course it is a question of money, and hopefully, going back to the monetizing question about making money on YouTube, I'm going to be trying to save up some money to invest in some new equipment. So that is, hopefully what I'll be investing in. I'm still looking into Patreon, so that there can be some site supporters. Whoever wants to do that can. And obviously, as I've pledged before, any money that's raised from that will go straight back into the channel. Noreen says, would you consider doing a royal reviewer meet and greet at your royal event or exhibition? Yes, I would, definitely. It would be a fantastic idea. Excuse me, my throat has gone all hoarse. I will drink some of my tea. But yes, that would be a really good idea. I would love to meet in person all of you guys. One thing I would really love to do is perhaps go on some kind of cruise event where anyone can go, anyone can turn up, kind of like a group cruise, and we could all meet up and talk about the royal family and have a relaxing time too. That would be something I'd really like to do in the future. Fussy Puppet says, what do you make of the bookies suspending bets on Prince Harry and Meghan's wedding? I do think it's fairly imminent. I made the video about Harry possibly turning one of the Queen's emerald chokers that Diana did wear into a wedding ring, and I think it is a distinct possibility that might happen, possibly with an announcement this year for perhaps an April wedding of next year. Elaine says, I'm learning all the time. I didn't realize you can do catch up. Yes, as soon as this video is finished, I just press a button and it uploads straight onto YouTube. So you can go back and you can watch it on catch up. And Elaine says, I would love for there to be a meet and greet. Caroline says, if you ever come to America, you have to let us American viewers know. Again, there's so many places I would love to go in the world. I have been to America before, but I would love to go again. Elaine says, I did a cruise event. We went to Cork from Southampton. It was a meet and greet with a makeup founder. It was brilliant. See, that would be another perfect job for me. Not necessarily the makeup founder, but I would love to do royal chats on board a ship. You know, they have those amazing theatres, and I would love to be able to make some presentations and take questions from an audience. So if any cruise ship is watching, you know, please think of me. I would love to be able to work on board one of your ships and do some meet and greets on board a ship. One thing this week that I was a little bit envious of is that there was stories breaking about William with his dad dancing, and there are certain royal correspondents or people connected with the royal family that the press go to, and they have them on early morning TV shows, or they talk to them on radio. And this week I thought, you know, I feel like I'm ready for that. I feel like you know, if there was something happening with the royal family, that, you know, a TV show company or a breakfast telly company could actually ring me up, and, you know, I could give my views just as good as anyone else could. So I would love for that to happen. And there are certain shows on British TV that I would like to do a royal slot on, and of course that's a very long-term aspiration, but I feel like I'm ready for that. And of course these live chats are really good because they get me into the practice of, you know, not knowing what people are going to ask me. So it'd be really good to be able to take audience questions from anywhere. Steve says, do you think Harry would marry in April? That's when Catherine and William married. Yes, I think it's a distinct possibility that April would be a good time. Noreen says, I'd be surprised if Meghan and Harry go the distance. I don't. You see, I think it's really, really serious. I think it's more serious than ever this time. Noreen says, you'd be great at that. Well, I like to think so. I hope I would be. Jamie says, he said hi to Minty for us. Well, I hope Minty was happy. Elaine says, contact the cruise lines. I'd book straight away. Outside cabin, getting jolly now. Yes. Well, hopefully I, you know, could attract some people to the ship. I mean, I'm sure it would go down fairly well. I do know some people that have been employed by the palace in the past who have done that, have given talks aboard ships. Okay, now that's everything on my list completed. So it's an open forum. Any questions, please ask away. Oh, I will let you all know, by the way, about what's possibly happening next week. So the events that I've got down for next week are Prince Harry will be going to a ceremony for the Embassy of Nepal. So that should be interesting. I'm not quite sure what that's going to entail, but he will be there on Monday the 20th of March 2017. The next day, on Tuesday, he will be in Leicester, and he'll be undertaking 3 different engagements of the day in Leicester. So again, that will be very, very interesting. I don't have anyone else penciled in, so hopefully I'll be able to get some more engagements. I'm sure there will be some, but if there are, I haven't got them written down. So I'll be checking tonight to see what engagements are for next week. But those are the 2 that I definitely have planned. And the following week, we have Duke of Cambridge at the National Memorial Arboretum, and it's an appeal, and it's an open remembrance centre. So that's what's coming up within the next couple of weeks. But obviously there will be more engagements taking place too. Jamie's putting the kettle on now. and he's going to let us all know if he gets another letter. Please tweet your pictures of your letter. I love to see them. Did William visit the tunnel in Paris? As far as we're aware, no. And I think any route avoided that tunnel. So no, I don't think he did, unless he did it privately, which of course they aren't going to report on. Steve says, do Princess Margaret's children ever do royal engagements? Not official ones. I mean, I think they do their own little bits of charity work, but not official on behalf of the Queen. Elaine says, I visited the tunnel, lots of graffiti there now. I did try to find a video on YouTube of someone going through the tunnel, and there was one, and I was trying to work out which, very morbidly I know, but I was trying to work out which column it was that she had. I think I worked out which one it was, and yes, it's very sad. I mean, there isn't anything on there to mark the fact that that was the spot. Some people might think that a little bit strange to have something to mark it. Some people might find that strangely comforting to have something to mark it, but it is just back to being a normal tunnel, and people do still like to visit it though and go through it and think of Diana at the time. Jamie says, why no plaque? Well, again, I don't know. Maybe some people think it's in bad taste. Some people might think it would be in good taste to remember her. It just hasn't, for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened. And Elaine says, I can never understand how the cameras weren't working that night. Sometimes it happens. I mean, the cameras weren't working when the brother of the North Korean leader was assassinated. There was 2 cameras out of action. It happens. Sometimes important things happen and they're not caught. I think that was just one of those occasions where that was the case. Jamie says, I know there's a statue above the tunnel. There's also like a little shrine where people do leave flowers and pictures. That was on the news this morning, in fact. Noreen says, when is National Arboretum event? I live about 10 minutes. I'll let you know. Hang on. So that is on Wednesday, the 29th of March. And the only information I have is it's to open the Remembrance Centre. So please go on down, and if you can take some pictures for us, that would be great. I could even use them on one of my videos. If you take them and then tweet them to me, I can use them and upload them. So that would be, you could be my roving reporter. That would be great. And Jamie says, I don't understand why the ambulance took 1.5 hours to go to the hospital in nighttime Paris. And you think it's an inside job. I did look at all of the information, and particularly when I read Ken Wharf's book. He was, of course, Diana's bodyguard, and he did say that no one could have possibly known that Diana would have been in the tunnel at that time, because her movements of the night were completely erratic. She was basically crisscrossing Paris. They went to Dodie's apartment, then they went to eat. Then they went to eat in the hotel. Then they went somewhere else. Then Dodie went somewhere by himself. They were crisscrossing London, and then they finally decided to go back to his apartment to sleep instead of staying in the Ritz. So no one could have known that they were going to actually be in the tunnel at that time. It was impossible to know. No one even knew that they were going to leave his apartment in the first place. So I don't think it was that. The fact it took 1.5 hours to get to the hospital may have had some relation to the fact of who she was. And when people realised who she was, they may have tried to work on her, there, and it didn't quite work. So I don't think it was an inside job. No one could have known where she was going to be on that night. So I'm sure something would have turned up evidence-wise if it was anything other. Fuzzy Puppet says, I hope William grows to accept the role more readily in the future. He appears to struggle with his destiny. I hope I'm wrong. I feel bad for him sometimes. Well, again, it was very unfortunate because, of course, this summer he leaves his job as an air ambulance pilot and moves back to London permanently when George starts school, and he will be undertaking full-time royal duties. So it's just unfortunate it happened now, because come September he will be a full-time working royal, and he will be accepting his future. So this just came really early. As I said before, I think it was very ill-advised for a trip for him to take. And Jamie says, and she wrote about the crash before as well. Yes, she was very speculative. She had thoughts about the fact that she would die in a car crash. We have to remember that, at the time, she was going through a very bad time, and her senses may have been heightened to lots of conspiracy surrounding herself. And there are lots of people who knew her that attest to that view too. Caroline says, the bodyguard of Princess Diana that survived in the crash, does he ever surface in the news? No, he's basically gone into obscurity, and he claims that he can't remember anything about the crash. Immediately up to the crash and directly afterwards, he has amnesia about it. Noreen says there is a big flame statue above the tunnel. I was there in December. Well, there you go. Freya says, I ran to McDonald's and ran back. So glad you're still on. I hope you enjoy your McDonald's. And Maria says, do you think Queen Elizabeth is going to allow Harry to marry Meghan? Yes, I can't see any problem. Noreen says, sure, I'll try and get there. We'll send photos. Thank you very much. Steve says, I watched a programme the other day, and Mohammed Al Fayed said he persuaded Dodi not to leave the Ritz and couldn't understand why he did and why Henry Paul was called back to take them. Dodi insisted. It was Dodi's choice to leave and go back to his apartment. They should have stayed in the Ritz. If they'd have stayed in the Ritz, nothing would have happened. They wouldn't have had to have even gone through the press. They could have just stayed in the Ritz. But the decision was taken, and they did leave the Ritz, and we all know what happened since. Elaine says, I think William will make a great king, like his grandmother makes a great queen. Yes, but I think he will do it in a slightly different way. He certainly, beats his own drum, so to speak. And Jamie's cappuccino is done. And Freya says, I agree, Elaine, Charles, William, and even George. I have no worry about the future monarchs. They'll all be great. And I was thinking this the other day. As I've said before many a time, I think Charles will take the name George VII. I think William will stay King William and become William III. And I think George will stay George and become George VIII. Purely because I can't see there being a King Alexander or a King Louis. Freya says, do the manuals still design? Yes, they do. I see them interviewed, but how are their design careers? They still design clothes. I think they do lots of private work. Steve says, I think Charles will make a good monarch, and Camilla always seems very queenly. She's definitely his rock. I mean, in a way, she's very much like the Queen Mother in her steadfastness and her solidness and her ability to anchor her partner. The Queen Mother did it to George VI, and I think Camilla does it to Charles. Both women were rocks. I mean, of course, they both had different public opinion of them. There's definitely differences there, but in terms of how much of a rock they are to their man, they definitely have that in common. Jamie says, I'm excited for Charles as king. I think he will bring a more human face to the monarchy. As I said before, I think he will be known as Charles the Conscientious, because he is conscientious and he's very ahead of his time in his thinking. Elaine says, I have a thank you card from Dodie's dad when I sent a condolence. Yeah, wow. If I'd have been old enough at the time to do it, I'd have done the same. Freya says, it would be wonderful throwback if David Emanuel designed Meghan's gown. Yes, it would. Elaine, if you still got it, you could always tweet us a picture of Dodie's card. Fuzzy Puppet says, why wouldn't Charles keep his name and be King Charles? Well, lots of past monarchs don't keep their first name. They choose a regnal name. Queen Victoria, her first name wasn't Victoria. That was one of her middle names. So she chose to be Queen Victoria. The present Queen Elizabeth didn't choose a regnal name. She kept with Elizabeth. But I think Charles will choose George VI for continuity with the male monarchs, but also to separate his identity, because up until now he's been the longest standing Prince of Wales ever, and he's been known as Charles and the Prince of Wales all his life. I think he will want to see some separation, almost like a transformation, like a rebirth, like he will transform into George VII. So we think, because it's a new chapter in his life. So his regnal name to sort of, it's almost like shedding off an old skin, shedding off all the past, taking on a new identity as king. Oh no, Jamie just spilled cappuccino all over his iPad. Elaine says, I'll try. I'll have to get my son to help me. And please do. I'm sure if I share the photo, everyone would love to see it. Elliot, what is your source for the Arboretum visit? It was Kensington Palace Twitter. So if you go to that, or even if you go to the Royal Monarchy website, they have a list of upcoming engagements. So you should be able to check that out there, or on the Kensington Palace Twitter. If you scroll back quite a bit, because they've added quite a bit more onto their page since then. So probably the proper official monarchy website would be the best. Freya says, does York House in London still exist? I've read it does, but I can't find it. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to check. Oh, actually, it does. Yes, I was reading about this before. I'm sure it's actually, you see, I have all this information. I just need to sometime recall it. I think it's rented out by the monarchy and it's used as some kind of office, or it's used for something. It's been leased out, basically. But yes, it is still there, and I think it's situated close to the Mall or on the Mall, somewhere near there. Noreen says, I think the Prince of Wales gets more criticism than he deserves. I think so too. People are very judgmental about the past and can't seem to move on. Bex says, my husband always asks me how you're doing. He doesn't follow royalty, but he loves I have found you. And well, thank you very much to your husband. And I hope he's okay too. Jamie says, already changing my money for London. I got £250 so far. Wow. You'll be able to go to lots of attractions for that money. And taxi fees or bus fees to get around. And food, of course. Don't forget food and drink. Freya says, are there any royal residences on the Isle of Wight that are still used? I don't think so. I think the one of Victoria's and Albert's was turned over to the Osborne House, was turned over to a trust, and it's a tourist attraction now. Fuzzy Puppet says, I guess being associated by the name King Charles I wouldn't be the most flattering. Well, he'd be King Charles III, wouldn't he? But no, I definitely think that he will take George VI. And no, the other Charleses were not looking. Jamie says, no taxi fee and all that my mum is paying for, but I'm going on a royal spending for it. Yes, you'll be able to go to the shops. Harrods has a good royal section. Buckingham Palace has a good royal section. And Kensington Palace, you don't even have to pay a fee, but you can go into the shop. And it's a really good shop because I've been there myself. Freya says there's also poor Bonnie Prince Charlie. I can see why he wants to avoid the Jacobite connection. Yes, I definitely don't think he'll stay Charles. Steve says Osborne House on the Isle of Wight is open to visitors. I've been very interested. There you go. That's what I thought. Okay, so I think this is probably going to be a good point to leave our chat for tonight. I'd like to thank everybody for joining in, especially the regulars that join in week on week on week. And even if you don't comment, but you're just watching, thank you for tuning in. Thank you also for watching up on Catch Up. And of course, I love the comments. So please comment away on the video when it's actually up. And if you've liked it, then please press like. That also helps. Please share it on social media. And until next time, from me in Shropshire, goodbye.